It is recorded in Matthew chapter 22 that during Yeshua's final days on earth, a Pharisee asked him, "What is the greatest commandment?" Realizing that the Pharisee is attempting to trip him up, Yeshua answers by quoting or paraphrasing the central tenet of daily prayers of all devout believers in God. Matthew 22:34-38. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. Then one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him and saying, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. This is the first and great commandment." I'm Brenda Cathcart, and this is Shadows of the Messiah. The scripture that Yeshua is quoting is from Deuteronomy 6:4-9. These words are known as the Shema, which is the Hebrew word that means to hear with understanding and obedience. They are the heart and soul of daily Jewish life. They comprise a prayer that is recited the very first thing when one awakes in the morning and are the last words when one retires for the night. This is the first prayer and words of Scripture that Jewish children are taught from the moment they can speak. Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. This passage of Scripture contains one of those jots and tittles that Yeshua said would not pass from his word. These jots and tittles, which are present in the Torah scrolls, are not translated or otherwise included in our English translations of the Bible. They are comprised of, among other things, anomalies in the text. They take the form of enlarged letters, shrunken letters, letters written backwards or missing, or added letters, as in deliberate misspellings of words, or even gaps in the text. All of these little anomalies add extra dimensions of meaning to the text itself. Take a look at the beginning of the Shema, the greatest commandment, as it appears in a Torah scroll with these textual anomalies intact. This is the first part of Deuteronomy 6:4, which translated to English is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." As we look at the Hebrew as it is read from right to left, you will notice the two enlarged letters in this verse. They are the ayin followed by the dalet. These two letters taken together spell another Hebrew word, aid, which means witness or testimony. It is number 5707 in the Strong's Dictionary, and it's contracted from number 5749, which means a witness, testimony. In the ancient Hebrew, the letters were different from today's modern Hebrew and were represented by pictographs, which reveal a deeper meaning of words. The Hebrew word picture for witness or aid looks like this. The ayin means eye or to see. The dalet means the doorway or the pathway. So witness or aid means to see the door or the pathway. Aid also shares a common primitive root with the word adah. Adah is number 5707. It means a stated assemblage, specifically a concourse or generally a family or a crowd, an assembly, a company, a congregation, a multitude, a people, a swarm. Now let's look at Strong's number 5713, adah. It's the feminine form of 5707, and in its technical sense it means testimony or witness. The Hebrew word picture for testimony or adah is the ayin. Again, it means the eye or to see. The dalet, which was the doorway or the pathway, and the hay means to behold or reveal. So testimony, adah, means that which is revealed, that which comes from seeing the pathway. The root of all these words is the root word ud. It's Strong's number 5749. It's a primitive root. It means to duplicate or repeat. By implication, it means to protest, to testify, as by reiteration. It means to encompass or to restore. It means to admonish, charge, to lift up, to bear, to call to, or give to, or take to witness. So aid, along with these other words, takes on the meanings of the primitive root, which gives added depth to the scriptures in which they appear. Now, the anomaly of the enlarged letters here in Deuteronomy 6:4, the Shema, means that one is to take special note of them in relation to this scripture. So continuing on from verse 6 in the Deuteronomy passage in chapter 6, it continues, "And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." In verse 8 in particular, it says, "You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes." This is taken literally, and a small box called tefillin, containing this very scripture, is attached to one's left hand and on one's forehead when engaged in ritual prayers. In verse 9, the passage reads, "You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." A mezuzah, which literally means a doorpost, is placed on the doorposts of one's house and gates. The mezuzah contains a tiny scroll with the words of the Shema written on it. And when one is sitting in one's home and traveling from place to place, one is to speak these words to others whom one meets along the way. The greatest commandment, then, is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our strength. And in doing so, we can't help but practice these things in a very real way. We are compelled to bear witness of the Prince to the congregation, the multitude of people we meet along our way. In the book of Acts, chapter 3, the Apostle Peter spoke after healing a lame man at the temple, saying that we are to speak these words as a testimony of the death and resurrection of Messiah Yeshua, as a way to lift up the Prince of Life. Beginning at verse 12. "And seeing this, Peter answered the people, 'Men, Israelites, why do you marvel at this? Or why do you stare at us, as though we had made this man to walk by our own power or holiness? The God of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob, the God of our fathers, has glorified his Son Jesus, whom you delivered up, denying him in the presence of Pilate when he had decided to let him go. But you denied the Holy One and Just One, and desired a murderer to be given to you, and you killed the Prince of Life, whom God has raised from the dead, of which we are witnesses. As we love God and love our neighbor, we bear witness to the identity of Yeshua the Messiah." Thanks for watching today. I'm Brenda Cathcart, and this is Shadows of the Messiah. Shalom and be blessed.